Hey everyone, I'm sure we all know someone who has poured thousands of hours into cozy games like Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing, and maybe that person is even you. But I haven't gotten too deep into cozy games before. I've done my time and played Stardew Valley, and I played some Animal Crossing like 10 years ago on the Wii. I was curious, what exactly makes cozy games so loved? What makes you want to spend thousands of hours just doing chores on your farm? What makes these games, well, cozy? And that question has quite a few answers. I mean, Google gives you things like, oh, it's a game that emphasizes non-violence and relaxation, or that it's a game that is monotonous but not boring. These explanations make me think of games like Farming Simulator 25, which, I mean, if you're from the Midwest, you probably feel right at home with this. But how exactly do cozy games find themselves in this ill-defined gray area? And after spending way too much time either playing games or browsing the Cozy Games subreddit, I think I've found quite a few answers for this question. I have quite a few topics that we're going to cover, so let's just start off with the most surface level thing, the gameplay. Now, the gameplay for cozy games can vary wildly across the genre. Usually they are life sims, farming sims, management games, or even puzzle games. However, they all revolve around some core themes. One of them being the lack of pressure being put onto the player to perform actions in the game. There's usually no punishment for not doing something in a game. So in a game like Stardew Valley, that means that you can go and try and get this Journey of the Prairie King achievement for 10,000 hours and still not get it. Besides maybe losing a little bit of your sanity, there is no actual in-game punishment for doing this. But this lack of stress or urgency in cozy games makes it easier for the player to engage and connect with the gameplay. This leads to the fancy term player expression, which is one of the key factors to make a game cozy. Each player is going to play the same game completely differently, and there is no wrong way to play or engage with the game. Some people like fully optimizing their Stardew Valley farm, while others are still stuck playing Journey of the Prairie King. The player can choose how to interact with the game and its mechanics in ways that they personally enjoy, while not being put in a disadvantage for doing so. While there are usually optimal ways to play the game, there is usually not any advantage for going for a specific play style, which makes it easier for the player to relax and enjoy the experience of the game in the way that they want to experience it. Player expression being a major aspect of cozy games goes hand in hand with the use of intrinsic motivation, which means that the actions of the player are self-motivated with no promise of reward for completing an action or a quest. This allows the player to take the game at their own pace and explore what the game actually has to offer. The use of intrinsic motivation leads players to get more satisfaction and fulfillment from the game as a whole. The player usually has more autonomy in the world and can be intrinsically motivated to complete actions in the game because the player wants to experience that part of the game or that mechanic. Let's look at Stardew Valley for example. You can give gifts to each of the town's NPCs, which gives you more dialogue with them, and for some of the characters in the game, you can marry them. There is no real gain from giving gifts to the town's NPCs besides maybe an item here or there, but the player does not know that in advance. So the reason that people give gifts in Stardew Valley is just because they want to experience that part of the game, and the player can fully avoid giving gifts to any of the town's NPCs for the entire game, and there's no downside to doing that. The game does not reward or punish you for marrying or not marrying an NPC in the game. And I think that sums up my example for intrinsic motivation in games. You can see this used in many different games in many different genres, so you can keep an eye out for when you actually see it. Alright, now let's change topics for a minute and talk about what probably 90% of people will judge a cozy game on. It's aesthetic. This is what can make a cozy game go from just okay to absolutely amazing. These games usually use very warm and earthy color palettes with the use of some warm lighting. Let's take a look at A Short Hike and how it uses its color palette to make the game feel cozy and inviting while also guiding its players. This game has an open world, but you can break up the color palette into two main areas, the woods and the mountain. The woods uses varying shades of muted greens and yellows with these pops of reds and blues. The use of color guides the player since areas of interest are usually a mixture of red and brown, which allows it to stand out against the dark green wooded backgrounds. or how the streams and lakes around the mountain can guide the player to new areas and give landmarks as to where the player is on the map. This makes exploring the vast world of the game not feel stressful or overbearing, as you are carefully guided by the use of color. And the second area of the game, the mountain, is covered in snow, which makes the paths the game lays out for you easier to follow, while also highlighting some areas of interest such as hot springs or saplings that you can use to climb the mountain even further. The color choices take what could be a good cozy game to an amazing cozy game. The use of these warm, calming colors not only add to the overall feel of the game, but they impact player exploration and discovery. But games do not have to have a warm, rich color palette to be cozy. Games like Slime Rancher, Melatonin, and Ooblets all use bright color palettes while still maintaining their coziness by using slightly muted color palettes and avoiding high contrast colors or saturations. Another important aspect in the aesthetics is the use of smaller areas such as rooms, gardens, and taverns that use realistic materials such as wood, stone, wool, or lighting from lanterns and candles, which can provide that warm lighting. Most of the time, it is things that you can find in the real world. These things make the environment feel more intimate since these areas are physically believable and can provide a sense of comfort to the player. And on the other side of a game's cozy aesthetic, we have the music. Cozy games have some of the best music out of any genre of game. The music is usually very soft instruments such as guitar, piano, harp, and strings, with a more relaxed song structure, which allows the music to blend into the game's environment. For a quick example, let's take a look at the Outer Wilds. The Outer Wilds might not be considered cozy by all, but the music is a fantastic example. The game uses a mix of guitars, banjos, harmonicas, strings, with a synth with a warm texture to it. The music has a warm and comforting atmosphere that brings a sense of comfort and warmth as you are flying around and exploring the world in your ship. The music serves as the canvas for the player to create their own emotional connection with the game, and the more ambient nature of the music in itself does not overwhelm the player with sound, and it allows the music to fade in and out of gameplay. They're usually more laid-back ambient music that serves to build out the game's atmosphere and provide a relaxing environment while not being obstructive to the game itself. The music, along with its melodies and motifs, usually serves as a canvas for the player to form emotional connections with the game and the music itself. You can see this in Minecraft and Stardew Valley, as people have specific memories with specific songs, and that connection with the music makes a game feel more cozy to more people. And one of the most important things for a cozy game to have is emotional fulfillment. Games like these got really popular around 2020 when everyone was stuck inside, to not only just relax and get away from everything, but to form connections with characters or to just hang out with some friends on Discord while something is happening in the background. So let's just start off with multiplayer cozy games. Multiplayer cozy games are an interesting thing to look at. Most of the time the game is not very good as a solo experience. Not to say that they are bad, but it's just clear that it is meant to be enjoyed with multiple people. Cozy multiplayer games usually just act as a chat room of sorts. The gameplay can just be mediocre, but if you have a couple of friends to come and hang out for a couple of hours, then that makes it a good multiplayer cozy game. Webfishing, for instance, is just okay gameplay-wise. You can go fishing and explore the island for a little bit, but as a solo player, you will probably run out of things to do in not too long. But having a group of friends sit by the lake or gamble together and just hang out for a couple of hours turns what could be a boring cozy game into a shared experience for people to enjoy. The entire atmosphere, gameplay, and music is made for you to form emotional connections or memories with a group of friends. So now let's move on to the single player side of things. Single player cozy games usually have some sort of melancholic undertone to them. Look at Stardew Valley. Most of the characters you end up bonding with throughout the game have some sad and often relatable backstory that you can relate with. This gives anyone that plays the game a sense of belonging in the game itself. They can relate to the characters in it and grow connections with the characters in the game. And an emotional connection with a game and its characters is what keeps people coming back to these games. I'm sure everyone has a game or two that they play at least once or twice a year, and maybe it's just because the game is really good, or maybe it's just because you are nostalgic for the time when you fully experienced it. Or maybe you have formed some sort of bond with the game that gives you a sense of comfort or belonging, or just an emotional release that you need every now and again. And these games don't have to be your generic cozy games. It can be anything that you have personally related to, or something that has just really stuck with you through the years. And this connection with a game makes it cozy for you. It doesn't have to be a specific genre or style of game. It can be anything that you relate to. This is why some people find games like Dark Souls or Majora's Mask to be cozy to them. They have these deep-rooted feelings about the game. There's a sense of comfort and nostalgia associated with playing it. These games weren't designed to feel cozy or inviting in themselves, but you have developed this connection with them that keeps you coming back. And this sense of emotional connection to a game is what keeps people coming back time and time again. There's a sense of comfort and nostalgia associated with the game for this person. And that is what makes a game cozy for you. And this can go for any game, no matter the genre, music, atmosphere, color palette, or even gameplay. Any game, no matter what, can be cozy to the right person that finds it.